Welcome to this introduction to the ESOL program at Community Impact. If you are listening to this, it's because you are a new volunteer. Perhaps you are interested in signing up with us as an ESOL volunteer teacher and would like to learn more about the program before you sign up, or perhaps you're a returning volunteer. Just a few words about the larger program, Community Impact. Community Impact is a nonprofit organization and also a department of Columbia University. We're looking here at our website, which is communityimpact.columbia.edu. And I'm going to scroll down a little bit where you can learn a lot more about our programs here, but there are three major components of Community Impact: our youth programs, adult programs, and emergency services. Youth programs are basically for Columbia University students only. They are Columbia University students who volunteer to work with youth in the elementary schools and high schools in the communities surrounding Columbia University. Our emergency services, which include a food pantry, a soup kitchen, and Habitat for Humanity, these services are open to volunteers from the larger community. You do not have to be a Columbia University student. And finally, the adult programs, and the ESOL program is part of the adult programs, and so we're going to take a little closer look at those. So right now I'm going to switch over to the website that you're actually looking at. And this is our student and teacher resource website, jeepstudent.org. And we're going to be taking a look right now. I'm under the ESOL Teacher Volunteer Orientation page under Teacher Resources, and we're going to be taking a look at the general overview of the program. So I'm going to click here. This presentation, of course, is available to you. You can go through it at your leisure at home whenever you want. I'll just press present. It takes a little bit of time to come up. And I'll talk about actually how you can navigate. This is very simple to navigate. We're not going to be going through the entire presentation. I just want to focus on the introduction to our program. Okay. Okay, here we are. All right, so to navigate this program, all you need to do is press the right button, the right arrow button on your keyboard, or you can also press here. And actually the very first thing that will come up is to show you how to view this presentation. You can do it slide by slide, and as I said, either by pressing the right arrow button on your keyboard or using the arrows at the bottom of your screen. You can also just explore topics randomly by double-clicking on any given bubble. Okay, so welcome to JEEP. So JEEP stands for the Jobs and Education Empowerment Project, and there are several different programs under JEEP, but all of these programs are for adults, so individuals who are 18 years and older. There is, of course, the ESOL program, English for Speakers of Other Languages. The TASK program, you may be familiar with the GED. The GED is no longer used in New York State. The new exam that people have to take in order to get a high school equivalency diploma is the TASK, Test Assessing Secondary Completion. We also offer TASK preparation classes in Spanish. For all of the participants enrolled in either the ESOL program or the TASK program, and for anyone who was formerly enrolled in these programs, they can take advantage of College Road, which supports people in their quest for applying for and entering a college, and also Job Road for those people who are looking for a job. Okay, so we're going to be talking about the ESOL program. So we serve about 800 adult immigrants every year, and we provide free English classes and support services. This program is funded through two grants: a federal grant, which is WIOA, or Workforce Investment Opportunities Act, and a state grant, ALE, which stands for Adult Literacy Education. So our participants, we have people from over 50 different countries. We give priority to the residents of the areas surrounding Columbia University and then also the Bronx. But we do accept people from all of the 5 boroughs. To join the program, however, you have to be an immigrant, which means you have to live in New York. And we really don't accept people who are going to be here on a temporary basis. So people who are here with a student visa, tourists, visiting scholars, these are not the people that we are funded to serve. Our students come from a very diverse socioeconomic backgrounds, but most of them are from lower income families, and these are the people that we hope to serve. I would say a majority of them have very limited education in their first language, though we do get college graduates and even people with masters who have just recently moved to the New York area. Okay. The teachers. So you, hopefully. All of our teachers are volunteers. We have about 90 teachers each cycle. It's a very diverse crew, native English speakers, but also international speakers, international teachers. We have experienced teachers, but also first-time teachers. And then we do get a lot of our teachers are graduate students from Columbia, NYU, the New School, and other TESOL programs throughout the city. Okay? There are 2 roles that you can play as a volunteer teacher. There's the lead teachers and the co-teachers, and let's take a little closer look at what that means. The lead teacher is the person who's primarily responsible for delivering the lesson. Okay? So you're the teacher. You're in charge. Okay? You may or may not be supported by a co-teacher. We try our best to put 2 teachers in every classroom. If there are some of our lead teachers prefer to teach alone, and so in that case, you can, if that's the case with you, you can request not to have a co-teacher. Very often it's simply that we don't have enough volunteers to put a co-teacher in every classroom, so that's why you might also be teaching alone. Now, our lead teachers are expected to have prior experience in teaching. For co-teachers, however, you don't have to have any prior teaching experience. And in fact, a lot of our former students who have gone through all 6 levels of the program now actually work with us as co-teachers, and we even have a couple who have gone on to get further training and are now lead teachers. The role that the co-teacher plays is up to you. We ask that you sort of negotiate your role with the lead teacher. We have co-teachers who have worked with us for many years who prefer to do nothing more than be the teacher aide. So what their job is, they hand out paperwork, they collect paperwork, they help with any kind of technology issues. When students are working in groups, they'll go around and sort of monitor their performance. They will perhaps, if there's a student who's struggling, pull them aside and work with them individually. So they're there to assist the teacher. A lot of our co-teachers, however, prefer to take on a little more active role, and so they will negotiate with the lead teacher. Perhaps they will ask to teach a lesson for one of the classes, and sometimes this relationship will evolve into a true co-teaching relationship where the responsibilities of preparing the lesson and delivering the lesson are shared equally. Okay? All right. Support staff. So, all of our teachers are volunteers. The support staff is mostly Columbia University students, and they are employed through the university's work-study program. We have teacher coordinators. Our teacher coordinators are generally graduate students from Columbia University's Teachers College. These will be the people that you are most often in contact with. Their responsibilities include recruiting volunteers, scheduling volunteers, the day-to-day communication with teachers. Remember that there are nearly 100 of you every cycle, and this can sometimes be a very big part of their job, just day-to-day questions about copies or about just the daily issues that can come up in a classroom. They will coordinate the volunteers with the other support staff. They're there to help you with any questions you might have about the curriculum or teaching in general. They also do classroom observations. They offer 3 professional development workshops per cycle. They will arrange substitutes with advanced notice, and I really want to stress that you'll have to understand that our teacher coordinators work part-time because they're students. They're full-time students. And so if someone tells us, a day before that they're not able to teach the next day, the teacher coordinator may not get that message for, until 2 days later. So we're going to talk a little more about what you need to do when you cannot teach a class. With advance notice, the teacher coordinator will arrange a substitute for you, but if you're giving less than 48 hours notice, you really need to try to help us arrange the substitute yourself, okay? And the teacher coordinators will also handle any requests for copies or equipment, and just solving any problem that arises, okay? Program coordinators and specialists. So the teacher coordinators will work more closely with you. The program coordinators and specialists are working more with the students. They are managing all of the problems that may come up with participants. They're also your on-site support. So the teacher coordinators are often working on campus. They do go onto site very often, and they're always available to work with you when you request it. But on a day-to-day basis, the program coordinators and specialists are the people who are going to be at the different sites where you're teaching. So if you need a marker or an eraser, if there's a problem with the classroom, if you have collected some student work and you want to send it back to the office, you're going to be talking to the specialist and the program coordinators. Their duties will include distributing and collecting the attendance sheets. They're in charge of administering the assessment test. They also will communicate with our partner agencies. So whenever we have complaints of untidy classrooms, they may come around and remind the students and the teachers that at the end of the class we need to put everything back as we found it. They're located on site during your class hours, but you can also contact them at CI ESOL info@gmail.com. The office telephone number, by the way, is 212-854-1492. And then there's the ESOL Program Manager. That's me. My name is Kent Katner. You can contact me at kk3171@columbia.edu, and my telephone number is 212-854-2612. Okay, let's talk a little bit about the class levels. So I mentioned that we receive funding from the federal government and the state government, and in compliance with our funding, we adhere to the National Reporting Standards, NRS. We are funded to serve 6 levels, so that goes from beginning ESL to low advanced. Don't be fooled by the advanced label. You have to understand that the people that we are working with are trying to get sort of survival skills plus. They need English to be able to sort of become active members of the community. We do have a lot of students who are interested in going on to college, many who are looking for a job, but we're not necessarily going to bring them up to a college readiness level in terms of their English. So we're not really teaching academic English. We're giving them the English they need to, say, speak to their children's teachers, to look for a job, to navigate the city, to learn about public resources, okay? So we'll start talking a little bit about levels 1 through 5. And the curriculum that we have for these levels adheres to an integrated skills textbook. The textbook that we use is Future English for Results. As a teacher, you will be given a teacher book, and the participants are required to purchase the textbooks. Now, you're welcome to use supplementary materials, and we encourage that. We want you to sort of present the material in a way that makes it more relevant to the students' lives. It's important, however, that you cover the key concepts in the assigned lessons. And the reason for that is class meets 4 days a week, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, and Thursday. You as a teacher may only be teaching 1 day a week, so you're only teaching the Tuesday class. There may be up to 4 different teachers for one class in a given week. And so one of the ways that we can make sure that there's continuity in the classroom is for you to follow the curriculum. And so we'll set it up, we'll show you the page numbers and the lessons that you need to cover. As a teacher, you may feel that some sections are more important than others, and absolutely you can give more time to those sections. You don't necessarily have to cover everything. And as we said, you can also choose to bring in your own materials to present it in a more interesting way or a way that's more relevant to the student's needs. But it's important that you cover the same concepts and that you communicate with the other teachers so that that there is a continuity in the class, in the lessons. And also, even if you're not going to use the book, always refer back to the book. So the students will pay about $40. It's a lot of money for this book, and if they're not using it, they may kind of wonder why they wasted their money. So you may present the material in a different way, but what you'll want to do at the end of the class is kind of refer the students back to the book and say, hey, and here's a different presentation, sort of take a look at this at home, and then if you have any questions, you can ask the teacher the following day. Okay, level 6 is a little bit different. There is no textbook for level 6, so what we have instead is a loose theme-based curriculum. On the one hand, this gives you a lot of autonomy. It allows you to sort of really home in on what the students need and what they want. A lot of our experienced teachers really enjoy teaching level 6 because it gives them a lot of freedom to bring in different materials and to sort of address things in a more in-depth way. The problem with this, of course, is that it also calls for a bit more planning and preparation on your part. But when you're choosing the level, your level preference, keep this in mind. Level 6 can be very rewarding, but it does take a little more planning on your part. Okay, so now we're going to be talking about schedules and locations. These will vary, okay, and it will vary according to the cycle, but also to the availability of space at our partner sites. We'll be talking about our partner sites in just a second. Every year, however, we have to sort of negotiate space with them, and sometimes they'll take it away, or sometimes they may want to change the times. Typically, however, we offer classes 4 days a week, Monday to Thursday. On occasion, when we can't get space for all 4 days, it's generally level 6 will be reduced to 3 days a week. The times that we offer our class are 10 a.m. to 12 p.m. for level 1 only. We have only one class at that time, and it is located at Clough, and it is a level 1. But from 12 to 2, we generally offer levels 2 through 6. From 4 to 6 p.m., we offer also levels 1 through 6, and 6 to 8, levels 1 through 6. One thing that's not mentioned here are the conversation classes. We have conversation classes that are open to anybody who's in levels 4, 5, or 6. So they don't actually sign up for it. We don't have a class roster. If they're interested in going, they just show up and they sign in. And these two classes, again, from 5 to 6 and 6 to 7, are 1-hour classes, very unstructured. The teachers who are interested in teaching this, they sort of bring in their own ideas. We can give you support for what you may do, but these are a lot more informal and structured classes, okay? So the first site that we work with is called Clough. Clough stands for the Community League of the Heights, and it is located at 2113 Amsterdam between 164th and 165th Streets. So it's quite a commute for some of you. Before you sign up for the 10 to 12 or the 12 to 2 level 2 class, you'll want to kind of keep in mind what the commute would be. So we offer the level 1 class from 10 to 12, and then a level 2 class from 12 to 2. We offer these classes all 3 cycles. So we have our spring, summer, and fall cycles. It is accessible to the A, C, and 1 trains and to the M2, M3, and M101 buses. Manhattanville Community Center is located at 530 West 133rd Street. That's between Broadway and Amsterdam. Typically, we have levels 3 through 6 at that site from 12 p.m. to 2 p.m. For the fall and the spring cycles only. We do not have classes there during the summer. This site is accessible to the 1 train and also to the M4, M11, M100, and M101 buses. PS 125 and Columbia Secondary School. These are 2 schools located in the same building, located at 425 West 123rd Street between Amsterdam and Morningside. Typically, we offer levels 1 through 6 from 4 to 6 p.m. and also from 6 to 8 p.m. And this is where we will have our conversation classes that we spoke about earlier. Also, these classes here are held only in the fall and spring cycles. It is accessible to the A, B, C, D, and 1 trains and to the M3, M11, M100, M101, and BX15 buses. And finally, Columbia University. During the summer cycles, most of our classes are held on the university's campus at the following times: the 12 to 2, 4 to 6, and 6 to 8. We do sometimes hold classes here as well during the fall and the spring cycles when space at our partner agencies is limited. And finally, the 3 cycles we've mentioned already. The fall cycle generally begins in September and goes through December, mid-December more or less. The spring cycle will begin at the end of January and goes through May, and then the summer cycle will begin in June and continues to August. Okay, so let's talk a little more about the teaching experience. Excuse me. What do we expect of our volunteers? Okay, and we'll talk first of all about pedagogy. So we encourage a learner-centered classroom. If you have teaching experience but you haven't ever taught ESOL in particular, it's important to understand that this is not a traditional class where the teacher lectures and the students take notes. These classes, we hope that the students are doing a lot more talking than the teacher. They should be interactive. We need to give our students a lot of time to practice and produce the language that they're learning. So this will inevitably entail lots of pair work, group work, to give them more opportunity to speak. The textbooks that we use follow a basic structure. And you'll sometimes hear me talk about PPP, presentation, practice, and production. And what that means is in the presentation phase, you're introducing the target language. And this might be the time where teachers are doing a little more talking, though I think that a lot of times you can sort of elicit responses from students to get them a little more engaged, even in the presentation part. The practice is scaffolded practice exercises with an emphasis on accuracy. So during this time, students are working in pairs, working in groups. They're doing an exercise to use the language, and what we're focusing on is making sure that they're getting it correct. The production phase is a little more open-ended. Students are using the language, but here what we're emphasizing is fluency. So whereas practice, they're still sort of learning the language, we're helping them a lot. We want to make sure that they're, getting all of those structures, using them correctly. In the production phase, we're just kind of letting them sort of, we want them to communicate. And so they may make a few mistakes. That's fine. At this phase of the lesson, we want them really just to sort of kind of feel comfortable expressing their own ideas, using the target language, of course. Now, if this approach seems unfamiliar to you, that's why we have teacher coordinators. Okay, so they're there to support and guide you. And as I said, we offer 3 professional development workshops every cycle, so that you can sort of pick up the techniques of what a learner-centered classroom is. And I have just a few little notes about what a learner-centered classroom is. And this first one comes from Lawler, published in 1991. And these are approaches through which instructors can facilitate a learner-centered classroom. Create a physical and social climate of respect. Okay, always really important. Make sure that the students feel comfortable, and it's also that the students feel comfortable making mistakes. So we want to make sure that the students are supporting each other. If ever you have a problem with a student, by the way, that we don't ask you to handle that. That you can let us know, the teacher coordinator, the on-site staff. You can let me know. We never want you to have to deal. That shouldn't be a burden that's placed on you. If you feel comfortable handling it, then by all means, we respect that. But if you don't, you can let us know that there's a problematic student, and we'll take care of that. We want to encourage collaborative modes of learning. So group work, pair work. Students should be talking to each other. And what that means in terms of group work is sometimes you may want to put students of like ability together so that they can move along at the same pace. Or sometimes you might want to put stronger students with weaker students so that the stronger students can sort of help the weaker students along. Include and build on the students' experiences in the learning process. Okay, find out what they already know. Our students come with us with a lot of background knowledge already. Okay, they're adults, they're raising families, they've crossed a border, they have jobs, and so find out what it is they know and see if you can sort of relate what you're working on to their past experiences or also their present experiences, making it as relevant as possible to their life helps them learn faster. You want to foster critically reflective thinking. You want to include learning which involves examinations of issues and concerns, transforms content into problem situations, and necessitates analysis and development of solutions. So, we want to make the class as engaging as possible, as relevant to their lives, and we're also trying to make sure that, remember that a lot of our students may have limited education in their native countries. Or they may have had really bad experiences with schools, so they're coming into this classroom with those bad experiences. We want them to learn English, but we also kind of want them to become sort of self-sufficient so that they kind of learn how to teach themselves so that it is a lifelong learning skill. Generate a participative environment, empower the student through learning, and encourage self-directed learning. Okay? Scaffolding. What does scaffold mean? Scaffolding is basically teaching. You want to give assistance to students so that little by little they can sort of work on their own. A lot of times people will talk about the presentation, practice, production phases in the terms of the presentation is when the teacher does, the practice is when the teacher and the students work together, and the production is when the students do. So this idea of giving a lot of support in the beginning, but little by little pulling back and allowing the student to sort of perform on their own. Here are some common scaffolding strategies. Connect to prior experiences in learning. We talked a little bit about this before, but if you can show the students, well, first of all, find out what the students already know or connected to their past experiences. It makes it easier for them to sort of retain new ideas. Pre-teach vocabulary. So what does this mean? So if you're going to teach using a text or perhaps a listening exercise, what you'll want to do is sort of introduce the topic and find out what students already know. So first elicit from them as much as possible. So if we're going to read a text about, say, the environment, put up the word environment, ask students what does this mean, and try to pull out from them, elicit from them as many vocabulary words as you can that might actually appear in the reading text. In some cases, you may need to prompt them, or you may need simply to sort of present the new vocabulary that they're going to be encountering either in the listening exercise or the reading exercise. Use graphic organizers and realia to make lessons more visual. Pause, ask questions, pause, review. Ask questions, what does that mean? Of course you're going to be asking questions, but it's important when you're working, you want to avoid the question of, do you understand? Because students are going to say yes, and you don't really know if they understood or not. So what you want to do is ask something called meaningful questions. A meaningful question is a question that you cannot answer if you don't really understand the meaning of the words in the question. So if I ask a student, do you like ice cream? And they say yes, well, I really don't know if they understood the word or not. But if I ask them, what is your favorite flavor of ice cream? If they answer car, well, then I can pretty much gauge that they didn't understand the question. If they answer vanilla, then I can guess that they understood not only the word ice cream, but also the word flavor. So asking meaningful questions is a really good way of gauging to understand whether the students have picked up the information that you're trying to give them. Model how an activity should be performed. So whenever you're going to start a new exercise, do the exercise yourself in front of the class, or ask perhaps a couple of the students to do it in front of the class, just so that the other students can understand what it is you're expecting them to do. You can support writing by using sentence frames. I know blank because blank. So what you're doing is trying to give students the structures they need so they can kind of get the basic structure, but then use their own ideas. And finally, promote classroom work interaction. Again, small group, pair work, etc. Commitments. Okay, so this is probably the most important slide of this presentation. Because we often start off with volunteers who, in the middle of the cycle, decide this is not what they want to do. This can be very difficult for us. It's not easy to get volunteers at the last minute, and this will disrupt the sort of learning process for the students. So we want you to understand before you sign up with this, what it is we expect of you. We do expect a lot, and if you feel that you're not able to give this because of time commitments or other commitments, then there are other programs in Community Impact, like our emergency programs and the task program, that might be a better fit for you. So we do ask a lot of our volunteers, and so we just kind of want you to understand what it is we expect of you before you decide to sign up with us. Some of these requirements are mandated by our funding contracts. So, we are required to do certain things, and if we don't do them, we can lose our funding. Other of these commitments are simply necessary for the smooth and efficient running of the program. We need to make sure that there's good communication. Otherwise, it's difficult to do this with so many volunteers each cycle. So again, if you're unable to commit, we may be able to make some exceptions, so always contact the teacher coordinator, and you can do that at CI ESOL teachers, plural, @gmail, so CI ESOL teachers @gmail.com, to talk more about it. And in the case that you realize that you're not able to commit, then maybe we can kind of point you to some of our other programs that might be better for you. So what are the commitments? Well, we'll begin with orientation. So this is what you're doing right now. All new teachers are required to complete our online orientation, which would include 2 recorded presentations in addition to this slideshow. So you're listening to one of the recorded presentations, and the slideshow that we're looking at, we're not going to be looking at the whole thing, but you'll be able to look at it at home at your leisure. We also hold a general information session for all teachers before the program start date. So we generally do this the Friday before the classes begin. So any questions you still have, this is the time to get your answers. You can also, of course, always reach out to us by email or by phone if you have questions. The other reason that we have this general information session is it gives you an opportunity to meet your co-teachers. So if you're working with a co-teacher in the classroom, this is a chance for you to sort of meet face-to-face for the first time. And also the other members of your team. Now, what I mean by that is, remember, you may be teaching only one day a week. So the classes run Monday to Thursday and you're teaching only Tuesday. There may be 3 other teachers teaching on Monday, Wednesday, and Thursday. And so this gives you a chance to meet face-to-face because you won't be seeing these people on a daily basis. To get to know each other, to share your email addresses, etc. Mostly you'll be communicating through our our shared Google folder, where you'll enter the information that you've covered, the work that you've covered with the class, so that the teacher who takes on the next day can check to make sure that you were able to cover all the material and find out if there were any issues. So as I said, the information session is typically held on the Friday evening before classes begin. Our cycles run for 12 weeks, so we do ask that you commit for the full 12-week session, okay? As I said, it can be really difficult to find a replacement in the middle of the cycle. I understand emergencies do happen. But the other thing is that when we change instructors in the mid-cycle, it can be really kind of disruptive to the learning environment. So, if you know in advance that you cannot commit to the full 12-week cycle, let us know and we can reserve a spot for you in the following cycle, okay? If something unexpected comes up and you're unable to teach a class, remember that we do ask for you to arrange for substitute teachers. Now, if you can give us more than 48 hours in advance notice, then we can help you arrange that substitute teacher. Regular communication with your colleagues. This is very, very important. As I said, to ensure continuity from one day to the next, you must be speaking to the teacher who teaches before you and the teacher who teaches after you. The primary means of communication is through our shared teacher folder. So there's a Google sheet called Curriculum and Class Summary. And after each class, you're expected to write a brief summary of the material that you covered and a note of any problems that have arisen. You want to alert the colleagues of these issues. You want to alert your colleagues who are going to be teaching the next day's lesson. You'll also be expected to consult the class summary before teaching so that you can see if your colleague from the previous day had any issues that you need to address. Finding a sub. So, if you're unable to teach a class with 48 hours advance notice, our teacher coordinators will help arrange a sub for you. But if it's a last-minute substitute, we need you to arrange one on your own. To help you do that, we're going to ask everybody at the beginning of the cycle to let us know what days and times that they may be available to sub. So the days and times you don't normally teach, but you're still available and perhaps would be able to sub. And then you can find this information in the shared teacher folder and contact the teacher who has signed up for the day that you're normally teaching. If you're unable to teach a class, please prepare a lesson plan for the substitute teacher. Okay? One other note, we really, really do our best not to cancel classes. There are several reasons for that. The most important reason is our funders require us to provide a certain number of instructional hours. And so if we can't reach those instructional hours, we might have problems retaining the grant for the following year. The other problem, however, is that, again, it's disruptive to the learning process for the students, for the participants, and it's also, we have to sort of readjust the whole curriculum, okay, for the following teacher. So we do our best never to cancel a class. Professional development workshops. Okay, so to comply with the stipulations of our funding contract, we offer 3 professional development workshops each cycle. They're generally held on a Friday evening on the Columbia University campus. They're conducted by our teacher coordinators, and sometimes we'll invite outside experts in the field. We encourage you to suggest topics that you would like for us to cover. And we also welcome those of you who would like to present. Okay, and we sometimes will have a little teacher share, and we ask for teachers who have interesting ideas or tools or resources who would like to come and sort of present these ideas to their colleagues. We understand that you may not be able to attend all of the workshops, but we do expect you to make an effort to attend as many as possible. Okay, so remember this is part of our funding contract. And in addition to the professional development workshops that we offer, we will also keep you informed of other opportunities in the field of adult education. Now, you won't be required to go to these, but if you're interested in going to these outside workshops, then you're more than welcome. Classroom observations. Our teacher coordinators try to conduct classroom observations of all the teachers in a given cycle. These are informal visits. They generally last about a half an hour, and they're there to give you the support that you need. If you would like help with a particular teaching issue, you can request the visit. So if perhaps the teacher coordinator hasn't gotten to your classroom yet, and you would like to schedule on a particular day, you can contact the teacher coordinator and ask them to come observe a particular class. Or you can ask to arrange for a co-teaching session. So you can ask for our teacher coordinator to come in and teach a class with you if you're kind of wondering how to do a particular exercise or how to present material in a certain particular way. Okay? All right, so in this section, we're going to explain just some of the sort of the details of the day-to-day operations of the program. Let's begin with the teacher books. So for levels 1 through 5, there are teacher books that correspond to the textbooks that the participants purchase, and you can pick them up before classes begin at our Earl Hall office. This is on the Columbia University campus. You can enter the campus at Broadway and 117th, and if you do, when you enter, you'll be behind Earl Hall. You just have to go around to the front for the entrance. Our office is located on the first floor. It's a little confusing. When you enter, you will climb a set of stairs and you enter on the second floor, then you have to go downstairs to the first floor. And our office is room 105, so you can go in there at any time, just announce that you are an ESOL teacher, give them the level that you're teaching, and anybody in the office will give you your teacher book. Once you've picked up your teacher book, you're going to go into the shared Google folder and you're going to initial the textbook checkout sheet. So this is, an honor system. More than anything else, we just sort of need to keep track of where all of our books are. At the end of every cycle, we only have about half or 2/3 of the books that actually return to us, and so it can be a little expensive buying new books. So, we try to make this as easy as possible for you. So once you've returned the book at the end of the cycle, then you go back to that little checkout sheet and just kind of indicate that you've returned it, so that when we are missing books, we can sort of contact the teachers who haven't returned it to see if we can get that book back. Attendance sheets. So if you're teaching at one of our off-campus sites, the staff will deliver it. So the program coordinators or the program specialist will come and hand the attendance sheet to you at the beginning of class, and they'll pick it up at the end. If you're teaching on the Columbia University campus, then we ask that you pick up and drop off the attendance sheet at our Earl Hall office, and that's in room 105. Beginning in the spring of 2018, we have a new attendance sheet policy. Students do not have to sign the attendance sheet anymore. Okay, so we don't ask the students to sign in or to sign out, which actually should make it a little easier for you. Teachers do have to sign because you're sort of the person of authority to sort of verify that the students who are marked present or were actually in the classroom. So teachers will have to sign, and what we do now have to do is indicate the time that the students have arrived and the time that they've left the class. Now, we'll make this easier for you. What we suggest you do is, say 10 or 15 minutes into the class, you can just take roll, put a check by any student who is there, and that check mark will indicate that the student has arrived on time. Then what you'll want to do is sort of train your students that if they do arrive late, that it's up to them to take the attendance sheet, find their name, and to write the time that they arrived next to their name. As for the time of departure, as a teacher, you don't have to worry about that. What you should do, though, is if ever a student has to leave early, ask them to indicate the time that they're leaving on the attendance sheet. Otherwise, when the specialist or the coordinators come around to collect the attendance sheets, we will mark a check mark by the students who were present that day, and that check mark will indicate that they stayed until the end of the class. Okay? This is new, so if you are a returning teacher, please take note of this. We have new attendance sheets. Copies. So if you would like to use supplementary materials in your classroom, what we ask is that you send us a PDF of the materials you would like copied to ciesolteachers@gmail.com. And you'll need to specify in advance the number of copies that you need, whether they can be one-sided or two-sided, and the date that you need them. If we get these, as I said, it should be 48 hours in advance. We will have the copies and we will deliver them to you if you're on site. The specialist will pick them up and bring them to you. If you're teaching on Columbia University campus, you'll be able to pick those copies up at our office, room 105 in Earl Hall. You may at times want to make a last-minute copy. It's not always possible. At Cloth and Manhattanville sometimes, and on the Columbia University campus, we generally can make last-minute copies. At the sites PS125 and Columbia Secondary School, we do not have access to a copy machine. Classroom equipment. Okay, we try our best to ensure that volunteers have access to the following: a whiteboard or a chalkboard, a laptop with access to Wi-Fi, a projector, a CD player, and speakers with Bluetooth capabilities so that they can connect to your smartphone. But I want to be perfectly honest. The Wi-Fi at some of our sites doesn't always work. We will have a projector available, but of course, if you don't have access to a Wi-Fi, that may not be very useful. The laptop that we have available does not connect to our speakers, and so if you're going to be doing a listening activity, it's not very loud, so you might want to use your smartphone instead. Okay? The listening exercises that are found in the textbooks are all accessible through our shared teacher folder, okay? And through our teacher resource wiki. You'll learn more about these in the other recorded presentation. I do want to say, though, of course, that if you don't have access to Wi-Fi, then it becomes a problem getting access to the shared teacher folder. So what I've written here is we truly value a talent for improvisation among our volunteer teachers, simply because we do our best to provide equipment and general technology, but unfortunately at some of the sites, access to Wi-Fi can be a problem. One last thing, if you're teaching at PS125 or Columbia Secondary School, you will find smart boards in the classrooms, but you cannot touch them. They're strictly off limits, okay? Even if you are a teacher who's already been trained to use a smart board, we simply cannot use them, okay? Register as a volunteer. So all of our new teachers should register. We will share that link with you, but here's the link here. It only takes a few minutes to complete, and basically this is just sort of so that we have a database of all of the volunteers who work not only for the ESOL program, but Community Impact as a whole. Okay, so student work. Per the terms of our contract, we are required to gather some documentation from our participants, and this is filed in the individual participant folders. The first thing we'll talk about are samples of written work. So we ask that each teacher provide us with samples of students' written work for each day that they teach. Now, what does that mean? So if in in a given week you teach only on Mondays, then during the cycle you will have to submit only one sample of written work. If you work on Mondays and Wednesdays, then during the cycle you will submit 2 samples of student work. Now, what kind of work are you going to be submitting? Well, it depends on the level, right? For lower levels, it may just be a few sentences. Perhaps it will be an illustration that's labeled with vocabulary words. For higher levels, then you might be able to be a little more creative, and it could be a poem, it could be an essay, it could be a resume. The idea is that we don't want, say, a grammar exercise with fill in the blanks. We're looking for something where the students are using the language to produce original ideas. Okay, so it does not have to be a three-page essay. But what we want to do is show that the work that the students are actually producing. If you choose a particular day to work on writing in the class, we're not asking you to track down any students who are absent. So if on that particular day only 20 students are in attendance, then you're going to submit 20 assignments. You don't have to track down the students who are absent that day. And if we do that by the end of the cycle, we should have 4 samples of student work for most of the students. Okay? Please do not wait until the end of the cycle. Okay? As the cycle progresses, there are students who drop out, and so we're less likely to get a sample from everyone if we wait until the last minute. Oh, one last thing. When you're ready to submit your samples, you can give them to the on-site staff. So they will bring them to our office. You don't have to bring them to our office, but if you're teaching on the Columbia University campus, then you can drop them off at room 105 Earl Hall. Career plans. So this is one of the requirements of our funders, and it's a really unwieldy form that was really difficult even for native English speakers to understand. So we've simplified it, and what we've done is we've created a lesson plan around the career plan, one to help students complete it, but also just to make it the whole process a little more relevant to them. And so what we've done is create a lesson plan that gets the students thinking about short-term and long-term goals and articulating transferable skills. So for the lower levels 1, 2, and 3, we reserve 2 days of the curriculum to complete the career plan. If you don't need to use the complete 2 days, that's perfectly fine. You can move on to something else. But we want to make sure that you have enough time to sort of get through the lesson. For levels 4, 5, and 6, it's a 1-day lesson plan. Once your students have completed the forms, you need to make sure that you hand them in to the on-site staff, or again, if you're working in Columbia University, bring them directly to our office at Earl Hall. All students must complete the career plan. So if on the day that you're working with it, a particular student is absent, our staff will track down that student to make sure that they complete the career plan. Literary magazine. We have a literary magazine that we call ESOL Speaks. This is a little something that we produce each cycle. First of all, let me make sure that you understand that this is voluntary. Students do not have to participate in this if they do not want to. But we ask all of the students to submit creative work on a given theme. So this is fall of 2017, and the theme this year is creating bonds, not barriers. So it's generally a very loose theme that kind of lets students kind of do, different things. They don't have to really write on the theme. We're just kind of looking for sort of creative work. It does not have to be, it can be just a few sentences or a brief paragraph from the lower levels. For the higher levels, it could be a poem, an essay, a short story, or just a personal reflection. But we don't have to limit our students to written work. We have a lot of people who are very artistic, and they'll submit drawings or paintings or original photographs. Here it says the theme is generally broad enough to allow for a wide range of ideas. So some past themes include breaking down walls, justice for all, life in the Big Apple. Once we've gathered all the submissions, we create a small magazine, and we distribute this to both the students and the teachers on the evening of the graduation. As I said, students are not required to participate, but you may want to give a few minutes to your classroom time, first of all, to allow the students to discuss the theme and make sure they understand it, and then if you have a few minutes of class time that they can work on it. Those students who have computer skills should submit their work via email to esolspeaks.ci@gmail.com. But we do have a lot of students who are not comfortable with computers. They can always hand in their hard copies. And if they give it to you, you can just hand it over to the on-site staff. Okay. So, oops, I'm sorry. I don't want to talk about curriculum resources. We're going to save that for the next recorded presentation. I just want to talk about a typical day. What would you expect? So what is your class routine before, during, and after the lesson? So before the lesson, you want to check the curriculum. Okay. What is it that you have to teach that day? You want to take a look at what the previous teacher has covered and see if there were any issues. Perhaps the teacher didn't get through all of the material. You may want to go back and sort of not necessarily cover everything that the teacher missed, but see what's essential for your lesson. You want to plan your lesson, so you want to take a look at the textbook, and then perhaps if you need any supplemental content, you can get that ready as well. So the day that you teach, you want to find your classroom, sign the attendance sheet, and take roll, and teach an engaging lesson. At the end of the class, you're going to return the completed attendance sheet to the CI staff, or again, if you're on the Columbia University campus, you'll bring it to our office, 105 Earl Hall. And then after the class, you want to make sure that you fill in the class summary sheet. So again, the curriculum summary sheets are available in the shared Google folder. And you're just going to give a brief summary of the material that you covered and any issues that arose during the class that you think the next teacher should be aware. And then if you have created some supplemental content, send it to us so that we can add it to the wiki. We'll be talking a little more about the wiki in the other recorded presentation, which will cover the curricula and resources. Okay? All right, that about covers it. If you have not already signed up to become a volunteer, but after listening to this presentation realize that you would like to, then please contact our teacher coordinator at ciesolteachers@gmail.com. You can also complete our volunteer registration form that's on the Community Impact website. Again, that's communityimpact.columbia.edu. Okay? Thank you very much for listening.